Hi, Neighbor Rich here. Welcome to the channel. Today on the exciting adventures of Neighbor Rich, we're going to be going to the Antique Automobile Club of America's museum. It's a 71,000 square foot building that houses about 150 cars, and the building itself is really uniquely laid out. They have a lot of different vehicles in here as well, as far as motorcycles, and also they have quite a few buses and some of the public transportation. But one of the things that they have is always sitting outside here, the Hershey KISSMOBILE, and there's always lots of kisses and hugs to go around. So we're going to be meeting actually with one of the directors, and he's going to be giving us a personal tour. So I'm really thinking this is going to be really exciting, seeing some things that just normally wouldn't even be able to see, you know, if you just came up to visit. When you first walk in, you get to meet some really friendly people. Hey, Rob,
how you
nice
doing?
to meet you.
Good to see you too.
Same here. Yep. So anyhow, I already said that, you know, this is like a 71,000 square foot building.
Yes.
Opened up in 2003.
Yes,
2003. Mm-hmm. And it's just an absolute beautiful facility with a lot of really nice vehicles to it. But you were mentioning that, like, right away, the first thing that kind of came to mind is the Orphaned Cars, right?
Yes, the Orphaned Cars is manufacturers and makes that are no longer available. In modern times tells you about Oldsmobile and Pontiac and even Saturn are no longer available, but as you go back in time, there's many more brands. And you can look around and we feature them right in the lobby when you walk in. Here's
a future right here in the lobby.
LaSalle, which was, you know, a car that was absorbed by Cadillac.
Okay, that was absorbed by Cadillac.
Yeah, and at one time a Cadillac LaSalle, as they still continued them, was a fancy car. And if you look at
that's a fancy car.
It is a fancy roadster.
That is a beautiful roadster.
And of course,
absolutely beautiful.
And we have an Overland, which was also integrated, merged with Pontiac years and years ago.
Mm-hmm. And I hope that they put some more money in that parking meter, because I see right now that the time has expired.
You'll see multiple parking meters throughout the place.
There's a violation too.
You may put your money in all the parking meters.
Okay.
Yep. So, you know, we have really great examples. You know, right when you walk in, you know, American Motors cars, and there's a Studebaker Daytona convertible right here, and an Oldsmobile 442.
Look at the DuPont right here.
Yeah, the DuPont with the wood style headlight is really iconic.
That is crazy. Yeah.
And that you can also, well, we don't have a woods headlight featured on our, we have a brand new exhibit that came in earlier this year that a team of engineers made, and it's a walk through the decades of 120 years worth of headlight history in your car, from like kerosene lamps and carbide to even up to modern times and adaptive, and it really tells you the whole history, and you'll see that inside. That's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see that. So we've got this. Mm-hmm. And we've got this, and of course a 442. I always love those. You know what's funny is these W30s. You know, they were fast cars, and a lot of them had 4 speeds in them. Yep. And I would expect this one did as well, although it looks like an automatic.
It's not. So the 442 originally was 4-barrel 4-speed.
4-barrel 4-speed dual exhaust. Exactly.
At some point they allowed for some type of sport shifting, which this has. So this has a sport. You can manually shift that. You can put it over to the manual side and shift it 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. But what you said about the 442 is exactly what I was going to say. Is 442? A lot of people thought, because of the cows and everything, the way they designed these, that really was the engine cubic inches, because a lot of them were around that size at this time. But that is not the case at all. One of the other things that I wanted to show you, which was really kind of interesting here, is that they have a display, and we talked about this a little bit, but they have a display of lighting over the years. And the original cars actually had candles in them. They were actually carriage lamps and lanterns. And then they went to side lights, they went to acetylene in actually the lamps. And then they started with the electric lamps, the early electric lamps. And they got to the point where they had sealed beams starting in 57 to 1970. And if you were driving after dark, you definitely need a set of headlights. And then the sealed beams went to composite lights, and then finally, they started to go to more exotic LED type lighting. and all. But you know, it's just fascinating to see some of this history. One of the things that they tried to do was they tried to make it so that it was a walkthrough and you could get a feel for, you know, automobiles as they changed over the centuries. You know, this, you know, obviously a wheel from the early 1900s to this is the way they used to pump gasoline in the Atlantic Gasoline Company, to what you would actually take a look at. The early horns, they were like this. They were either the Uga horns or this kind. And that was your original horns. That's what you did. When you went to a shop, you went to a machine shop and they helped you with cars. But this was before the days of real service stations. There's also a whole section of what they call orphaned cars. And these are cars more orphan cars, yeah. And this is a 1917 Pierce Arrow, and you can see, like, you know, a Stevens Duryea
Touring. Look at all the brass on that. That has true brass era.
Yeah. Wow. And of course the wooden wheels. This is just an amazing car, but this went out of business obviously and didn't make it. Here's another Pierce Arrow, a 17 is a bigger one.
Correct. That is a big touring.
Yeah, that's a big touring car for sure.
The lights are as big as my head.
Yeah. Here's a Stearns Knight.
Stearns Knight was a car from Ohio. Of course, the Knight sleeve valving engine was the popular, was their engine of choice in their valve train in these cars, which didn't have any valves to do the intake and exhaust. They actually had a cam sleeve with ports in it, and it was an amazing design. We have the whole, we have the engine, a movable engine on display upstairs that you can see.
Was this a precursor to the Knight Rider?
No.
Okay, just checking.
It was.
But here's another one. Yeah, look at this. Yeah. And these are all just orphan cars that, again, you know, didn't really quite make it. There's a Pierce Arrow here that's just worth talking about. It's a 1928 Pierce Arrow, and it was actually made to drive around all the big Hollywood stars.
Paramount Studios
had this car.
On a bus chassis that was geared low because of all the hills you would go around Beverly Hills. And you could put your movie stars and other actors and actresses in there, pull the shades down and take them to and from their acting.
Wherever they were going, whatever parties they were doing or whatever.
Parties.
But, you know, one of the things that's interesting about this, and Pierce Arrow did this, again, because it was the top of the line, is instead of being chrome, these are all sterling silver.
Yeah, whoever ordered the coachwork for this car didn't go with nickel or chrome plating. They went with
sterling silver
plate. So the radiator shell and all these lights and accessories are just over the top with sterling silver finish.
Wow. They're gold gilding on all of the handles, the inside, little footrest for...
Even the little vanity pieces inside.
Pieces and also shades. When you got into the 1930s, you got into some really fancy cars. This is a 1930 Packard and 1933. And you can just see the detail, the chrome, the way they did these cars. They were just gorgeous. And then, of course, you know, the way they had these was that you had these what were called rumble seats, and the rumble seats were there, and that's where, you know, you set the kiddies and all, and they called them rumble seats for a reason. Sitting in the back like that, they rumbled all over the place. But you had some really cool cars, no question about it. And then as we continue on in our journey, you know, we start to get into the 50s cars. And again, here's a 50 DeSoto, a 1957. It's owned by Chrysler. And you know, one of the things, all the 57s pretty much, they came out with all the big fins. And the fins were definitely part of the DeSoto and all of the cars at the time in the 50s like that. But you can just see what a fun ride that would be, taking the family out for a Sunday drive in your 1957 DeSoto. Then the next car is a really crazy car too. Again, it's a Hornet Hollywood. Again, a really big car. These cars were so big and so much metal and so heavy, but they did have V8s. And the maker, in case you haven't guessed it already, Hudson. This is a 1957 Hudson. And so you pack your bags and you're off and ready to run. So if you were in the 50s and you were looking at sitting at a drive-through, might be what it would look like, because you'd have these older cars, an older Studebaker and some of these other cars sitting there looking at a drive-through, drive-in theater. It's pretty amazing.
With the portable speakers that you would either take off the pole and hang on your door.
Yep. You younger guys, you wouldn't know what these are, but these were actually the speakers, and that's the way you would do it. You would roll down your window part way,
hang that right
and
on
then
your
hang
car.
it on that little hanger on your window, and then you control your volume. And that's the way they used to do it. You know, one of the things that they're doing here, which is kind of cool, is if you decide you're having a wedding here, you can actually sit in this drive-in area, and they'll actually put up your information about like how you met and other photos and things that they can put together. We're here with some of the Pontiacs, and here's a 62 Pontiac that is really pretty, and give you an idea of the classic style of Pontiac and how far they came really with some of their cars, because they went from having this kind of a car to more sports cars like this one. This is a jump, of course, of like almost 20 years, but now you've got like a Pontiac that really, you know, is really a sports car for sure.
Well, Pontiac was known as, you know, General Motors really established that five-tier level of cars, you know, the working man Chevrolet, the whole way up to the fancy top of the line Cadillac. But the Pontiac was always considered, you know, the real hardcore performance-minded person was going to get into a Pontiac, because they all but invented the modern muscle car, you know, with a mid-sized car with a big motor in. 64 GTO started all of that.
Yeah, 64 GTO started it.
And a 62 Grand Prix, like you see over there, still had a big 400 plus cubic inch engine, was elegant, was a luxury car, but it was still performance-minded. And then, of course, the next generation with GTO
was the GTOs, which this is one of my favorite cars. I love these cars.
GTO,
and this
Pontiac
was called the Judge.
On Rowan and Martin's laughing, saying, "Here comes the Judge," was really popular. You know, everybody wanted a Pontiac Judge
GTO,
second generation, third generation muscle car.
And they were the first ones really that I remember kind of that having the wings like this too.
You could get, you know, more pronounced spoilers, and of course
spoilers,
the whole front nose was different. It was just really identifiable. And of course this whole mid to late 70s graphics scheme was really cool,
Ron. It really was.
And then, of course, you know, the generation after that, Smoking the Bandit cars.
Smoking the Bandit cars, the Trans Ams got to these.
The cars, for my taste, got a little bit plasticky. You know, you lost the chrome.
You lost some of the feel.
That was considered performance in those years, you know, a performance domestic car. You still see a spoiler, you see a hood scoop, you see a high-end motor above the standard, and of course some sporty interior, console, bucket seats.
Well, these were big engines, 455 cubic inches. I mean, they were big, and they could really pump out some horsepower.
And then still have air conditioning.
And then and you can still have air conditioning. And then, but you know what was funny in the muscle cars, especially like the older 69s and stuff? The thing that they did, they didn't want air conditioning, because air conditioning would draw away from the horsepower of the motor, and they were really looking at, you know, how fast can I get this sucker to move. But then you have like this one. This is gorgeous. This is where the Trans Am kind of really got to. And
this is really the 1999 like the last generation, a 30th anniversary Trans Am convertible. Was really the last one produced. You know, after 2010, you saw no more, but this was a really good, modern, fast car. You know, with a big motor up front. Sleeked it down and styled it a little bit, and it's just a beautiful example. But ram air was always the
big thing of
signature thing. You know, starting that ram air setup, and this one continues that in a modern car.
And honestly, you know, Pontiacs, I remember in the day, everybody always said, like, you know, if you had a Pontiac, just expect to only be able to get about like 6 miles to the gallon, because that's typically what you got.
You didn't buy it for your you wanted to go fast.
Exactly. One of the things we're seeing is the store that they have here, and we've got Kristen hiding over here, and Jared, and they're volunteers that work up here and mind the store. But you know, one of the things are that definitely they have their own, you know, t-shirts and stuff, but they've got all kinds of memorabilia and things sitting around that are really, really cool. Yeah, Rob, I was just telling them about all the exciting things you have in here. You got some really neat memorabilia, like some of this stuff up here, you know, some really cool, you know, antique
some is display, but we have a lot of collectibles that are donated, and then in turn, you know, we can sell some of these things and put back into our collection.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of really generous donators that do that, and a lot of our volunteers here, even the ones that donate things. But as far as other merchandise goes, of course, we're the center of the Tucker universe. You can find unique Tucker shirts.
Tucker here, yep, without question.
Unique Tucker shirts and hats.
So now we're coming up actually on the Tucker display here. When you're going straight, so the center light turns off.
Yep.
And then if you are moving the wheel one way or the other, the wheel and the light were synchronized so that that would actually shine the light in the direction of whatever you were turning. Correct. That is amazing.
They only made 2 automatic Tucker-matic cars, and the engine and transmission from number 2 is here. It's actually right here in front of you.
This one here?
Yep. That was a car that was tested and then rolled over in factory test, and the car was destroyed, but its powertrain lived on.
Yeah.
And the other Tucker-matic is over here on display. So this is the only fully all-together
working, running,
riding, driving Tucker-matic car in existence.
Yep. And what a lot of people didn't know is that, again, Tucker was ahead of their time with a front light that actually steered and pointed in the direction that you were actually headed.
Correct.
You can see here it had a frunk. Trunk?
It did have a frunk.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is about it is that they were rear engine cars. And a lot of people don't know that about Tuckers, but they were one of the first ones to really come up with this kind of a design.
And have the proposed disc brake system that they wanted to integrate at the engineering level.
This was in the 40s. This would have been...
This was in 47
47,
and 48.
Yep. There's another beautiful Tucker.
That is not a Tucker.
Oh, this is not a Tucker.
A fake Tucker.
A fake Tucker.
What?
This is a museum. You can't have a fake Tucker?
You can, when they only made 4 of them and featured them in the movie.
Oh.
Good people from the Tucker Club of America convinced him to donate the car so that it could be preserved. And they restored the outside and the shell of it. And if you look inside, you can tell that it's just rough fiberglass.
Yeah,
and
sure.
This was made to be a movie prop.
Yep.
That would literally just
be pushed
propelled or pushed down the road, and you had brakes and it would stop.
Yep.
So there's no motor. There's not. That's the only door that actually functions. All the other ones are just. It's
just
part
to
of the
look.
fiberglass
Yeah, just part of the
shell.
fiberglass shell. So. And this is actually the movie.
Well, this was when you could get this at the video store when it came out on video cassette. This was they recreated the movie pop out.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
It is very cool. Actually, I found that in our archives, preserved in a box.
Yeah,
and we have another one in the in our administrative office.
That's really cool. But if you have not seen that movie yet, I highly suggest you take a look at it because it is an amazing movie.
That was a worldwide movie. Here's the movie posters in different languages.
Oh yeah.
So that was definitely, you know, Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas. I mean, those are names that you recognize.
They're big time names. Yeah.
So those guys really put some of their own enthusiasm into this Tucker story to make it a movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a kind of a sad story, but it's a wonderful story, and that 50 of them were made, and that you know, that you guys are preserving this part of American automotive history. That's awesome.
This stuff will always be here. And here in front of you is Tucker number 1.
This is Tucker number 1.
That is the first one sold at a dealer.
Wow.
A dealership. And that dealership was in Harrisburg.
Not that you'll ever own a Tucker, but you know, if you did and you need to fill it up with gas, at least on this number 1, the gas tank was right here. And they changed it for later versions, but this one, you'd have to find it.
Earlier ones, the gas tank was
right there on the fender. So now we're down on the downstairs level, and go ahead, you were saying you always featured a lot of buses?
In our lower gallery, this is the place where we can feature Museum of Bus Transportation. And we have a bus that was used in the rotation of the Speed movie, Stunt Buses.
That's this one, right? This was the Speed movie bus?
This was one of the buses that was on rotation for the Speed movie, so we don't know if Sandra Bullock and Keanu were actually in this, but we were told they probably were. But again, they had 3 buses for the movie. One they destroyed. Yeah, sure. And the other 2 they used. And this was one of the ones that they used. And then you got a couple other buses as well. Yeah, and I know this one I know for sure. Oh yeah, this one's famous.
This is the famous one, and this is the one that I.
Yep, Jenny was back here in the golf
Jenny
bus,
was in the back,
looking at the back. You can see everybody goes in there and recreates that themselves because look at all the smudges and fingerprints on it. Yeah,
my Jenny. You know, life is like a box of chocolates. Yeah. You never know what you're gonna get.
So yes, Jenny was on this bus, and I'm not too sure if it was used when they were kids or not. I don't know if that was a different bus.
Different bus, but yeah, this bus was the one that Jenny was on, looking out the back, the Vietnam era one. You know, one of the things they have here, which is kind of interesting, is they actually had these mobile.
It was a Valentine.
Valentine was the name of the guy, and the guy started them in the 30s, but you could actually buy one of these, and then you could just set it someplace. It was kind of like a food truck in a way, but this takes you back in history. This one was actually in operation in the 1950s. And, you know, they had a grill and all that kind of stuff. And this is the old-time milkshake machines that they used to have.
And everything in there is refrigerated.
And, yeah, they had a little refrigeration box. And,
dishwashing.
And then they had their own little jute boxes sitting here on the counter that you could actually play a song. Mm-hmm. That was just kind of cool. And that was just the way it was back in the 50s. We're back in the section where, you know, cars that have either been just taken out of the main area or have been, you know, taken to another show somewhere are sitting around. And you can see that one of them is this huge Lincoln Continental. And I don't know if you can see how long that is, but that sucker's got to be 30 feet long.
I think 18 and a half. It actually is, yeah.
18 and a half feet? It seems longer than that. But anyhow, okay. So anyhow, this is huge Lincoln Continental, 18 and a half feet. And it is just unbelievable. And it's in great condition. They had those huge Ford engines in them. And that was just an incredible car. And then the other one that's here is kind of, this is Betty White's Parakeet car. And you can see, again, this anytime pretty much up at the museum when it's on display, it was actually donated to the museum. So now you are officially owned or have this as part of your...
Yep, a very generous car collector and Betty White fan from Texas donated this car several years ago.
Yeah.
He maintained it, and we maintained it as well. And it just got back from the Radnor Hunt Concours event.
Yep. And
so it won a Heritage Award.
And this is the phone that Betty used to use when she was in her car. Mm-hmm. And that was officially the Betty White car. Very cool.
Betty White loved her Cadillacs.
You know, this is all part of the extended tour, and it's really exciting. And we really appreciate Rob spending the time with us. When these cars, you know, first come in, obviously they've got to be cleaned up. And here's a what is it, a 46 Cadillac?
It's a 46 Cadillac convertible sedan.
Wow.
So you put the top down, and this post comes out of there, and you've got kind of like a Phaeton.
Yeah.
You know, like a 4-door convertible.
Wow.
And it's just...
So now we're taking a look at actually one of the areas, a donor, a big donor named Jim's place, Jim Schmidt.
Jim Schmidt, yep.
Actually donated this space, and there are 80 cars in here. This isn't part of the normal display, but sometimes these get pulled up.
Oh, yes.
Up into the main display area. And you also do Model T rides.
We do Model T driving instruction. This is our classroom area. We take a couple cars out, and we'll get 4 Model Ts out a couple times every month from spring through fall and let participants drive them as, of course, we instruct them. We don't just say, here's the keys. No, we want people to experience some cars in our collection, and it's a great way to do that.
Cars and Model Ts. Look at this collection in here, though. This is a collection, just this collection alone would be worthwhile taking a look at and going through.
And do what's called a behind-the-scenes area tour any day. A little bit addition to your admission ticket price. And you love cars, you can come down here and see cars.
This is where you have your okay used cars.
Yeah, there's some more than okay. Well, there's some Rolls Royces here.
And a Rolls Royce. Yeah. Look at this. Oh, look at this old T-Bird here. I love this.
That's 66 T-Bird.
66 T-Bird convertible.
It's a great little
Look
car.
at this. Beautiful. Again, that's probably got to be at least 16, 17 feet long.
Yeah.
What a beautiful, beautiful car. Wow. Wow. Yeah, and this is in the storage area.
It is.
That's amazing.
These are
absolutely
just about
amazing.
all of them with a little coaxing, you know, run and drive.
Yeah, yeah. Look at this. Look at this Plymouth. This was an old cop car. Yeah. This was like the car 54. Where are you? I'm dating myself. I know. Oh gosh, and the Corvair. I used to have a Corvair like this.
A lot of people own the Corvair.
Yeah, they're just incredible cars. Incredible cars.
The most popular ones, but if you get behind the wheel, you realize it's a fun car.
Oh no, it was a scary car. There was you put 100-pound sandbags in the front of these things just to make sure they'd stay on the road at 60 miles an hour.
I hear people saying if it snowed bad, these cars would actually push the snow, because rear-engine cars would work well.
Rear-engine air-cooled
weather. Yeah,
they were crazy. They were absolutely crazy. You know, old Eldorado. You got some really, really cool cars here. Really, really do. There's so many cars. I'll tell you, we could spend hours here without question. But this is one that definitely caught my eye. It's a 1954 and original blue flame. It was 3 one-barrel carburetors. And they actually used 2 air cleaners to cover that. And this was, like I said, an original blue flame. And what a beautiful car. Tucked away here in the corner next to, I hate to say it, a Prius. Well, that'll pretty much wrap it up for this episode of Neighbor Rich. I really hope you enjoyed this upload and getting an idea of some of the cars and things here at the AACA Museum. Again, big kudos and thanks to Rob for his time and taking us through some of the sections and areas of this wonderful facility. And, you know, as always, I like to leave you with just a little kind of something at the end. And, you know, my thought today is that, you know, no matter what you do, no matter where you are in life, no question about it, you know, you're going to end up with things that don't quite go quite right. You're going to have, and I don't like to use the word failures, but you're going to have things that don't quite go the way they should. And instead of looking at it as a failure, instead of looking at it as something that didn't quite go right, you know, I think the way to look at it is it's a learning experience, and you move on and you make it better. This is Neighbor Rich. Have a good day. I'll talk to you in the next one.